and on-screen session. Finally, we are back to in-person conferences like this, so it's a blessing. So first of all, I would like to thank you all that you have joined this session with us on Sunday morning, which itself is challenging. So thank you so much. And he's already introduced me. I am Zahida Quadri, and I'm working with Government of Sen. With me is Dr. Aurore Didier. She is one of the renowned French archaeologists and a wonderful lady. She has a lot of contribution in the field of archaeology and excavation. She is the director of the French Archaeological Mission in the Indus Basin. She is a permanent researcher and head of the Indus-Balochistan Programme at the French National Center for Scientific Research, Archaeological and Science of Antiquities. She specialized on the society's material culture and interaction in the South Asia during the protohistoric period with a focus on the Bronze Age and the Indus Valley civilization. She has conducted excavations and exploration in Kech Makran since 2001 under the leadership of Dr. Ronaldo Beswell, and collaborated with the publication work with Mehergarh, Nowshera and other sites in the Sindh and the Balochistan. She has also participated to various excavations in Turkmenistan, Sultanate of Oman, and India. Since 2015, she and her team has been working on the question of the emergence and development of the Indus civilization in the lower Indus Valley, excavating the site of the Mohenjo-daro in Shahid Benazirabad district, and conducting surveys in Sindh Kohistan in cooperation with Culture, Tourism, Antiquities and Archives Department, Government of Sindh. So, welcome. I think if I can put it here. Okay. So, welcome.
Thank you.
I am not comfortable. So, first of all, we would like to know about the French Archaeological Mission in Pakistan, that how it has emerged, because when I just read about the history of the French Archaeological Mission, it is as much older as Pakistan itself is. So, would you please like to shed some light on the French Archaeological Mission working in Pakistan and the contribution and the importance?
Sure. Can I have the first slide, please? So first, I would like to thank the organizers of the festival and the Embassy of France for inviting me to participate to this edition.
Thank you,
Ms. Zahida Quadri, for chairing this session. So the French Archaeological Mission in the Indus Basin is one of the two oldest archaeological missions, foreign archaeological missions, working in Pakistan, and one of the oldest research programs funded by the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Since the beginning of its activities in Pakistan in 1958, the mission has focused its research on this fascinating Indus civilization that is known here in Pakistan and all over the world as the first urban phenomenon in South Asia. Can I have the next slide, please? So all of you know the most famous examples of these remarkable Indus planned cities discovered in the greater Indus Valley. I mean Mohenjo-daro in Sindh and Harappa in Punjab. But if the Indus civilization studies have seen major advances in the past decades regarding the settlement patterns, the craft developments of the Indus civilization, or the subsistence strategies of this civilization, there are still crucial questions that need to be answered. And one of the major challenges is to better understand its origin and internal evolution over the course of 600 or 700 years. And these questions are in the heart of the project conducted by the French mission. Next slide, please.
Here I would like to ask you that why you have chosen Mohenjo-daro specifically when you were working on the Indus Valley civilization?
Mohenjo-daro is in the continuity of the previous research program that had been conducted, and here, for example, on this map, you have an overview of all the excavations conducted by the French mission in Pakistan since 1958. And in 1958, I would just like to remind that at this time, the Pakistan had a French DG of Antiquities. The first DG of Antiquities in Pakistan was a French scholar named Professor Raoul Curiel, and he made come the French scholars. So the first excavation that has been conducted by the French mission was here in Sindh, in Amri Dadu district. Next slide, please. You have some pictures of this site on the next slide, please. Yes, so the first excavation was Amri in Dadu district, which was very important for establishing the first chronological sequence of the lower Indus Valley between the 4th millennium and the 2nd millennium BC. And it is also in Amri that French archaeologists established for the first time the subdivision of the Indus civilization into 3 sub-periods that question the model of a monolithic civilization with no evolution across the time. And then the mission shifted in Balochistan, in Kalat district. Here you have a picture of Nindowari site that has been excavated by Jean-Marie Casal. And this site is very important because this is the only site excavated for the Kuli culture, which was contemporary to the Indus civilization. And then, next slide, please. And then, in the end of the 50s, the mission shifted in northwestern part of Balochistan and in the Kachi plain, where Dr. Jarij and his team conducted this famous excavation of Pirak, Bhergar, and Nowshero. And the results of this work evidence the longest sequence of occupation in South Asia, dated between the 7th millennium BC and the 2nd millennium BC. This is the first time in South Asia that we have this long sequence of occupation. But the famous site of Mergar was also very important to establish strong connections between the Indus Valley civilization, dated during the 3rd millennium BC, and the culture that preceded this civilization in Balochistan, connecting especially in the arts, pottery, figurines, jewelry, and metallurgy. So, next slide, please. In parallel of this program, another French mission, the French mission in Makran, conducted excavation in Ketch Makran in southwestern Balochistan to document a region that has long remained a no man's land in the archaeological map of South Asia. And 20 years of excavations in Mirikalat, Shaitum, and other sites helped in documented also very interesting Chalcolithic and Bronze Age cultures prior to the Indus civilization. So due to political problems, we have stopped the work in this area, and recently we have resumed some new work in cooperation with your culture department in Sindh. So now I come to this point why we have started working in Chanudaro. Next slide, please. So in 2013, the 2 missions, the one in Mergar and the one in Makran, were joined to create a single program, which is the French Archaeological Mission in the Indus Basin, with a new fieldwork in Sindh. And with its very rich cultural heritage, Sindh is often considered as, you know, the cradle of the Indus civilization.
Yes, that we have discussed earlier as well,
Especially since Mohenjo-Daro discovery. However, the study of the early centuries of the Indus civilization has so far been substantiated by limited field data in Sindh. Why? Because, can I have the next slide, please? You have to know that for many sites, the first development phase of the Indus civilization is deeply buried beneath later occupations dated to, the second half or third Indus period. This is the case in Mohenjo-Daro. You have some pictures of Mohenjo-Daro on the top part of the screen, and as you can see, the city is in fired bricks.
Yes.
So, if you have visited the site, what you can see actually is the later period of occupation of the Indus civilization. The earlier phases are too deeply buried beneath the sediments of the food plains, and that cannot be accessible for excavations. And there are other sites where these early levels are too eroded or too damaged to be excavated. There are also some big industrial or agricultural projects, industrial projects like in Mohenjo-Daro, for example, that prevented us, the community, to have information about this old period. So, next slide, please. This is the reason why we have started this new fieldwork in Sindh in 2015 with the contribution and help of a great friend of us, Mr. Salim Baidi, to first find some new sites to be excavated. And then we have, next slide please. And then we visited the site of Chanudaro, which is a very well-known Indus civilization site located on the left bank of the Indus River between Sakrand and Nawabshah in Shahid Benazirabad district. You have to know that this site was discovered in 1931 by an Indian archaeologist from the Archaeological Survey of India, Mr. Majumdar, and then it was excavated during one field season only by the first American expedition to India, first American archaeological expedition. And Mr. McKay, who was the supervisor of this excavation and who had also excavated in Mohenjo-Daro, finds some comparable architectures in fired brick, the same than in Mohenjo-Daro in this site. But the thing is that this site is quite more small compared to Mohenjo-Daro, and it has not been preserved. So all the bricks have disappeared due to erosion and brick recycling. That's why you cannot see anything on the site. But next slide, please. This gave us, in the same time, the unique opportunity to access the lower levels, the earlier levels of this Indus civilization. Why? Because there were no fired brick architectures anymore. Yeah. So we could have access directly to this older levels. So that's why we have selected this site to be excavated in cooperation with the culture department.
So as you have mentioned, that the site was disappearing little bit as the passage of the time. Do you find any kind of challenges while you're choosing this site and this excavation period?
Sorry?
Any challenges while excavating the site from the community and from other challenges from the department, or any kind of, would you like to share?
You meant about the results of...
Yes, please.
So, can I have the next slide, please? So, so we immediately thought that this site would be very important for documenting the earliest period of the Indus civilization. So first, we opened a test sounding with the department in 2015 just to check if there were older remains, older architecture preserved or not. And we immediately found some mud brick structures, not fired brick architecture, but mud brick structure. And we decided to carry out a large, extensive excavations, which have not been done before for this first Indus period in Sindh or in other provinces of Pakistan. And since 2016, we have exposed more than 6,000 square meters of architectures, of mud brick architecture, that helps in better documenting the urbanism of this site. Next slide, please. And, you know, these discoveries, of course, questioned the previous theories on the foundation of the city in fired brick, like in Mohenjo-Daro, because, you know, everybody thinks that the city in fired bricks are settled on huge, massive mud brick platforms to raise buildings beyond the reach of floods. But actually in Chanudaro, we did not find any mud brick platforms. We only found mud brick structures, mud brick architectures. So this is a very important result. And this city in fire brick that we have excavated has been dated by pottery analysis and radiocarbon analysis of around 2500, 2300 BC. So let me show you some of the results we have quickly about this architecture. So can you go before, please, previous slide? So just to have an overview that during these early centuries of the Indus civilization, the architectural system was quite the same. I mean, the city was planned. There was a planned system of urbanism with big streets like the one you can see, Street 1 on the image, which measures more than 7 meters wide. And you have also lanes, and all these lanes and streets that define, you know, blocks or neighborhoods. And what is very interesting is that, next slide please, in Shanudaro, the fired brick was used during these early centuries, but it was used for hydraulic structures like drains, wells, basin platforms, but it was also used, these fired bricks, for building buttresses, compartments. So fired brick was used,
Yes.
but not everywhere in the city. The second very important result, I would say that, next slide please, we had is that since the beginning of the Indus period, around 2500 BC, there was a functional distribution or specialization of the different quarters of blocks of the city. For example, to the west of the main street here on this screen, we have found more residential areas. And these residential areas are formed by blocks of houses in mud brick, like one block you can see here on the screen. So the houses were quite small at this period of time. They were composed of a courtyard, L-shaped courtyard, surrounded by one room and very small cells or storage area. And all this room, they include kitchen places, storage jars, drains, basin platforms. So, I mean, the same commodities than during the later periods. And can I show you in the next slide, for example, a reconstruction of a typical mud brick house from the first Indus period. We have done this reconstruction from the 3D plans we have done on the site, because all the architectures we found, we are documenting them by 3D. And of course, since the city, this settlement is built in mud brick, after each excavation season, we have to rebury all the architectures we found. That's why if any one of you come and visit the site, you will not see anything on the surface. Inside these houses, can I have the next slide, please? We have found a lot of material comparable that the material we found in Mohenjo-Daro, a lot of terracotta objects. You have an overview here of figurines, animal figurines, human figurines, playthings, games, toys, carts, wheels, and everything. But we have also few metal objects and few seals, as you can see here on the print.
Yes.
Seals are not so developed during that time, not that much compared to the old next periods, but we have found some. Can I have the next slide, please? But maybe what is the most interesting about, I mean, among our discoveries is that in the eastern part of the main street, we have excavated a huge craft complex dedicated for bead manufacturing, beads in stone, stone like cornelian, agate, jasper, steatite. Of course, these materials are not present in the local environment of Sindh, so people had to come this material from other regions like Gujarat, for example, for the cornelian. So we have huge amounts of remains of craft activities. We have all the remains, all the, I mean, the steps of the fine manufacturing processes are represented from the pebble, cornelian pebble, till the finished beads. So this is very important discovery, and all this material is contextualized. Next slide.
Sorry,
Yes.
may I interrupt you here,
Yeah.
because it's an interesting question, just asking that in other sites we found that there's a kind of trade relation to some other places, and then the craftsmanship was emerged at that place, whether it's Bambur or it's some other places.
Yeah.
I just want to know about the Chahanchudaro. What about the craftsmanship? They are the producer themselves, or they are trading, or what?
Yes, so people are importing the
Okay.
material from outside because there is no local resources. All these stones, they do not come. I mean, you can find the clay for making the objects of the daily life, but all these stones you have seen comes from other regions. But of course, these people, these craftsmen, were very highly specialized. There
Yes.
were, I mean, these craft people were like masters of fire in a way and masters of techniques, and they were producers. But we do not find too much finished products on the
Okay.
site, meaning that first hypothesis, the material has been reused, which I don't think too much, or the material was exported to other sites, exported to other regions. And you know, in Mesopotamia, for example, we found in some royal graves of Ur or in Susa, one of the most famous sites in Iran, these long cylindrical beads, same than we found in the Indus civilization. And maybe these beads have been manufactured in Chanudaro. I believe that Chanudaro was one of the most important craft production center of the Indus civilization.
Thank you. Sorry for
And,
interrupting.
and
yeah.
above all, we have also a nice collection of tools involved in
saw,
this
yes.
manufacturing,
Yeah.
bead manufacturing. You can see here just an examples of shirt blades and drills and earnestite drills used to perforate the beads. And one of the most interesting discovery is that all this material in bone and antler we have found, not that much, but I mean, this is totally new because usually in this archaeological context in South Asia, all the bone material, especially, they are not well preserved. So finding tools like this is totally new, and we hope to publish these discoveries soon.
I think the department is going to establish a museum on a site as well,
Yeah.
and very soon it is available for the public to in person go and see these artifacts. They are really very fine.
Yes, yes, and after 6-7 years, yes, we have collected quite a lot of artifacts, and I was very
Exactly.
pleased that the department decided to build and to open a museum on the site, which will be a very important achievement for
For the,
Sindh cultural
archaeology,
heritage
exactly.
and also for archaeologists. So now we have to work together to process
Foresee, yes.
this, but this material will be accessible, of course, because what you have to know is that all the material coming from the old excavations in Chanudaro in 1930s, this material is not in Pakistan, of course. The material is in India because it was at the time of the Archaeological Survey of India, or in America because it was a joint corporation. So there is nothing from Chanudaro in Pakistan except the material
Which
we
is
have
excavated,
excavated. Yes. So, so just to conclude on this excavation, next slide, please. So now we have significantly deepened our understanding of the urbanism and craft developments during the first Indus period. And we know that Chanudaro was for sure like a hub or an important regional center of bead production and distribution, not during the second part of the Indus civilization, it was already the case, but also during the very beginning of the Indus civilization, which is a very, very important result. And Chanudaro was for sure, as you mentioned, integrated into this interregional interaction system of exchanges between the lower Indus Valley, the northern area, Gujarat, and also
Exactly.
connected by maritime trade to the Gulf and Mesopotamia.
So I have one question about this. That besides its archaeological artifacts that have been found from the excavation, is there any about fauna, flora, something expect which French archaeological team is right now working on it?
Yes, sure. Next slide, please. So
Because
another,
that's also an important part of the excavation which is being missed many times in Pakistan. Usually we focus on the artifacts and we
Yeah.
just skip this part of.
definitely. And since 2019, we have also implemented some specialized programs such as bioarchaeological studies to determine the floral and faunal components of the site environment and to reconstruct the past subsistence strategies involving wild or domesticated plants or animals. This is a very important program which is conducted by my colleagues from the French National Museum of Natural History. One of my colleagues, Professor Tenberg, who is specialized in archaeobotanics, is here today. So if you have some question about this program, she could answer too. And in order to encourage the development of the bioarchaeological sciences in Pakistan, which are not yet represented in Pakistani universities, we have established cooperation with local university like the Shahid Benazir Bhutto University of Veterinary and Animal Sciences. And the objective is to bring the French team expertise to create and organize, for example, some reference collections of animal bones which do not exist in Pakistan for archaeologists, and also to provide basic trainings to local students. Especially on this bone material, my colleague Dr. Marjan Mashko has done a lot these last years, and you can see here some of the students from the local universities being trained in our field camp.
If you don't mind, can I ask you about the training program? Because I saw many young women and guys in this project with you, working with you.
Yeah.
So is there any training program in future with the different fields of archaeology, not just on excavation, archaeozoology, archaeobotany? Is there any program in future?
Sure. We have some programs, and in general, next slide, please. And in general, I mean, we are not providing only basic trainings and cooperation in these bioarchaeological sciences, but the mission project also includes field training programs dedicated to students in archaeology, to young archaeologists, field officers, assistant
curators. It's good to see very young girls in your project.
Yes, definitely.
Really
They come from local universities. Some of the young ladies also came from your department, from the museum in Karachi, from the culture department. And these people, they are trained in excavation techniques, in material registration, or management of archaeological collections. Since 2016, we have been hosted in our team more than 45 trainees from various institutions, and but also from institutions from Sindh, but also institutions from other provinces of Pakistan. It's very important for us to create like a network of young archaeologists and not working only with, people only from Sindh.
I agree with you, yes. It's very important to find a collaboration between different provinces, because it is like a culture developing that the person was working in Sindh, they just only know about the archaeological culture and material of Sindh, and the strings of some other provinces, they don't know what's going on here. So I really appreciated this kind of collaboration.
Yes. We give like a priority access to Sindhi students, of course, but we have people coming from Punjab, Gilgit. We have 2 PhD scholars
the sharing of
who are
knowledge is very
assisting
important.
us in the excavations. You have met them. One is from Gilgit, another one is from Balochistan. We have also students from Balochistan. So it's good to create a network of young professionals in archaeology. And we have also organized training sessions in the local universities, but also in France, thanks to the mobility grants and scholarships financially supported by the French Embassy of Pakistan here. So we are very grateful to them for their support, and you can see some of the pictures of trainees in France, and it's quite a great experience we have.
Is there any opportunity for the community member as well? Because the community in coming time, the perception of archaeological sites and cultural heritage has become changed, and be more interested to involve local community in these projects, because community is like an asset to any cultural property. They belong to them. Of course, we are part of this, but community is the main asset to any cultural properties. So.
Yes, next slide, please. Yes, besides transfer of knowledge, awareness raising among cultural organizations and stakeholders and the wider public is very, very important, and maybe one of the most important commitments of our mission. every year the team participates to wide public conferences, but also we participate to cultural events, and we organize site visits for the local schools, for example, and we try to make all the people matching, and you know, education and community development, you know, they're playing a crucial role in raising awareness about the protection, preservation of the archaeological sites. So our actions are actually reinforced by a very strong support of the local community. You have some pictures of the local communities and officials from the cultural institutions here on these pictures, and we have been very pleased, for example, when we are living in a small village named Jamal Kerio, and when the local people, for example, they reopen a school, a local school, since we have been working there. And now the school is also open to young girls, which was not the case before. So I think that our activities have also a real positive impact on the local community, and we are very proud of this. For me, it's one of the most important achievements of the mission.
Maybe it's because the head of the character is the woman?
Yes, maybe. So let's talk about this, actually. Can I have the next slide, please? Oh, yes, sorry, I forgot to tell, but about this community awareness, for example.
Yes.
2 days ago, we have inaugurated this book, which was written by a Sindhi local poet from Sakrand city. And this is very important because, you know, these local people, they collected precious information about the past work and also the recent work, and they have written some books for the public there. So we have inaugurated these books, and we are very happy and proud that also there are actions made by the local community for enhancing this heritage. So now talking about the women in archaeology, can I have the next slide, please? You have seen maybe on the different slides that women occupy a central role in the MASB team. Besides myself as a team leader, the team includes female scholars, young colleagues, students, and they take part in the different parts of the work. So we are also very proud of this achievement.
So do you find any kind of challenges while doing this excavation or this project before and after? I thought there is a kind of problems when you're coming from some other country, some other culture, and then you try to get a license and everything.
Yes, I have to say that being a woman in archaeology here in Pakistan is quite challenging sometimes, and I am also the mother of a young daughter of about 3 years old, so now I could not spend a long period of time on the field, but fortunately I can alternate with my husband, who is also an archaeologist and the deputy director of the mission on the field. But I would say that, can I have the next slide, please? I told you the women are integrated in the team, and I have to say that I always been very well welcomed in Sindh wherever I went. I mean, I was treated very well with a lot of respect, and I've been respected as a female team leader everywhere I've been. But for example, having women in the labor, I'm not talking about the students or the trainees, but having women as labor to excavate the sites or cleaning the objects, for example, in the house, it's totally impossible here in Sindh. I mean, it's not possible to hire women. We could not see women, actually, the local women. Sometimes when we go for a visit in the village, like my colleagues, we can see local women, but besides this, we have not too much interactions with the local women. I'm not talking about big cities like in Karachi, but even there in Nawabshah or Sakrand, actually we have no interactions with the wives of the officials, for example. So it's a kind of bit of regret, yes. And we would like to reach out more women in the official functions, for example, which is not the case. You can see a picture of the team in 2017 on the lower part of the screen, and you can see that most of them are men, you know, workers and officials and etc. So that's it.
So thank you so much. There are so many questions even in my head, and I
Yes.
think if audience also wanted to ask a question, so the forum is open. Maybe you can ask questions.
Just before the questions, I would like to thank all
okay.
my partners and sponsors for the culture department.
Thank you so much.
We are very grateful to them for providing the license for working and all the support and cooperation. I would like also to thank the local people and of course my team.
No, it's really grateful that the French Archaeological Mission is involving and training the local people and the department specialists, in this field as well. So of course we are also grateful for you and your team to figure for this kind of mission and excavation. I think I have any questions. Yes,
Yes.
please.
I'm intrigued by Chateau Mahbi.
Yeah.
Is that where you lived? And how was it to live in the heat? And did you, was it a year-long program, or did you just come in the winter season, or what? How did you
Yes,
cope with the living and eating and produce and everything?
Yes, so Chateau Mahbi is the name of the camp, of the house that my dear friend Salim Baidi found for the team nearby the site. And every year we are coming for a short period of time, actually, not too much time, 2 months, 2.5 months maximum, because first, the first constraint is the weather, you know. We cannot excavate here in Sindh. The only period is between November and March, and there is also a question of fundings. We have a strong support by the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs, also some support by the local government, but we cannot carry it out 5 months of excavation, so.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
We have another question with Marin Bukhari. Okay, yes, please.
You mentioned that you actually bury the site
Yes.
before you leave. Is that due to, apart from conservation, is it due to the amount of salinity that rises during the summer months?
Yes, mud brick is it's very difficult to preserve and to restore. You have seen even in Mohenjo-Daro, all
That's
the
right.
architectures in fired bricks exposed to rainfalls and erosion, wind. It's very difficult, and the site has to be rebuilt all the time in Mohenjo-Daro. So for mud brick, it's totally hopeless. We do not have the solution. We expose a lot of architectures every year, and the best way to preserve this architecture is to rebury the site. But we hope that one day we could also, for this museum we have been discussing
Yes, yeah.
with officials from the culture department, we hope to reconstruct a mud brick house, to have like invitation of mud brick house in the museum or nearby 1 year for the people, for the public to visit and see how it looks like. But as an archaeologist, we have to preserve these levels. They cannot be restored.
If you had a sort of a shed over it while you were working, excavating, would that in some ways prevent the evaporation and the rise of salinity?
It's totally hopeless. I
Okay.
told you, and also another specificity of this area is that the water table is quite high, and everything is totally covered by salt. The people who visited us saw that after 1 day of excavation, everything is covered by a thick layer of salt. So it's totally impossible to remove this, to treat the architecture. It's too big work.
And just finally, one
Yeah.
thing. You showed quite a few terracotta bulls and figurines. Now, were these found in any graves, or did you find them in graves, or did you find them buried in...
We have no graves, which is a big question.
That's
and
a question
even a
I
big
wanted
question
to
for all the Indus civilization studies, because as you may know, most of the time we have no graveyards, no information that there were some skeletons found in Mohenjo-Daro, but it's not a graveyard. There is a graveyard excavated in Harappa, but this graveyard dates from the last centuries or post-Indus period. For the Indus civilization earliest, we don't know where are the graveyards, and we don't know about the funeral practices of this population. We have been discussing this with my colleague yesterday. Maybe the bodies were burnt, maybe they were thrown in the Indus River, we don't know, but they are not on the site.
The terracotta bulls that
Mike.
you have found.
Sorry,
and
I cannot hear you.
Thank you. It's the terracotta bull and the figurines that you have found, which
Yeah.
are quite relevant to whether there were any graves or not. It's a study that I'm doing at the moment, and I just wanted to know whether you had found them in specific spots or whether at random.
The figurines, we have found them everywhere on the site. Most of them were found in the houses, in the living areas in the houses. So these people were playing a lot, I guess. We found, I mean, thousands and thousands of terracotta carts, wheels, balls, figurines everywhere. So I don't know exactly what they were doing with all of this, but they were very happy with this, definitely.
Excellent.
please.
Do you have any hypothesis that why no weapons have been excavated from Mohenjo-daro site?
Not really. I mean, there were many theories about, about these people, the Indus civilization. I mean, some of them, all theories about the Pacific population. Actually, we don't know. We don't know anything about the organization of these people. Of course, there were some elite people at some stages, but since we have no texts, since we have no information, we have no graves, how to tell anything about their social organization. You have no temples in the Indus Valley civilization, you have no palaces, you have big houses sometimes, but no palaces, no temples, no text, nothing, no graveyard. So how could we determine exactly the social organization of this civilization? We cannot for this moment. So I cannot answer the question if there
We
were
have-
Pacific people or not, but for sure there were no weapons.
We have another question, yes, please. I have also one question. but
You,
I
you
hold
have
it.
partially answered my question about human skeleton remains,
Yes.
but I did see something in your report online, and I was wondering if there was any possibility for DNA analysis to see where the population came from.
So without skeletons, we cannot do anything. But maybe we can maybe carry out some DNA analysis on the animal bone material. But for the moment, for the human being, we cannot do anything. But in the future, maybe there will be some possibility to do DNA analysis not on these people in this valley civilization because they are not skeletons, but on the people buried in Mergar, for example, or in this Balochistan, because there were graveyards. Graves have been excavated, skeletons have been found. So hopefully, I hope in the future that we could carry out some DNA analysis. But the conditions of preservation of these skeletons are not good. I mean, this material is really old, and in the area, the environment is not too good for preserving the DNA.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other question,
Okay, yes, please.
Okay.
You see, so far the work that has been done in the Indus Valley civilization and in these regions, we've seen the physical structures and maybe utensils and figurines and those things. But what do we know? How much do we know about the lives, the social, cultural practices, behaviors, attitudes, how they were living, those people? Do we know anything, or will we ever find out?
Yes, I told you this is a very important and difficult question to answer, because we can have an idea of some traditions. I mean, for example, there are many human figurines found in Harappa or Mohenjo-daro, so we have an idea of their dressing, jewelry, of course, and these things. But how can we determine exactly what were their traditions, cultural traditions, or religion? Nobody knows. There is the iconography on the seals that have been found. Some of the people think that maybe there could be some deities, you know, some godness with horns, etc. But it's really difficult to say. We can only do some comparative analysis with other traditions and cultures from Iran or other regions, but without texts, again, this is very difficult to say.
That I also wanted to ask that the figurines which we have found, we are not able to determine if it's used for as a play toys or they are like for the worship. Still, there's a question about it.
Yeah, I think that animal figurines must be for playing,
For
most of
toys,
them.
yes.
But of course, for the human figurines, there are several hypotheses. Since actually, for example, the female figurine, they exist for a long time in this Indus tradition.
Yeah.
And the first female figurines were excavated. I mean, the oldest in Mergar, they date from 8,000 years ago, and the archaeologists were thinking that maybe they could be associated with some cults and, you know, like female goddess,
Yes,
and etc., which is quite widespread. Yes, for sure, this is an hypothesis, and maybe some of these figurines, female figurines we found in the Indus Valley civilization could be also associated with worship. This is a possibility, yes.
Any other question, please?
Yes?
My question is, what was the religion of the Indus Valley civilization and the people? What was the belief system?
I told you we
Yes,
don't
yeah,
have a
already.
lot of evidences. We have the iconography of the seals that maybe help us to think that it could be there could be some goddess, but it's very difficult to say about their beliefs and religion. Nobody knows actually, and without temples, without architectural places, I mean, connected with some maybe religious belief, it's very difficult to say. If there were some temples in the Indus Valley in Mohenjo-Daro, it could be easier to answer your question, but this is not the case. This is quite strange, actually, a civilization with no palaces, with no temples. You know, for the social, there is not too much social differentiation in this civilization, actually, which is very interesting, by the way.
So this lady is waiting for a long, please.
Yes. Which one? Yes? Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
please. Go ahead.
Yes, please.
You
I
might.
cannot hear you, sorry.
Hello? Yeah.
Yes, please.
So you had mentioned that the artifacts that were found were not as developed as those found in, for example, Mohenjo-Daro. But was there evidence of development even within those that you had found on the site of Chanudara?
Sorry, I could not hear you properly. Can you repeat your question, please?
So in
Yes.
the artifacts that you found in Chanudaro,
Yes.
you said they were not as developed or as finished as those found in Mohenjo-Daro. But did you see any progression? Like, was there evidence of finishing
No,
happening?
I think I mean, it's not this. There are different stages of. We found in Chanudaro a lot of remains of craft activities for studying the different stages of the manufacturing process. But I did not say that this material was not so developed than in Mohenjo-Daro. The material is I mean, the techniques developed during that time are highly specialized since the beginning, and it is connected with all the tradition that started in Mergar, in Balochistan, thousands of years ago. I mean, it's a long development process. And what I said is that since the beginning of the Indus civilization, during the early centuries, there were very highly specialized craftsmen. I mean, the techniques, everything is here. But there are some categories of objects that are not developed too much during that time. For example, these metallic tablets and seals, metal seals, silver seals, they are not so well developed during that time. Even the sturtite seals, they are developed, but they are not produced in high quantities like in Mohenjo-Daro during the successive periods.
So, one more question.
My question is regarding the end of this Indus Valley civilization. There are different theories. Do you know any recent development in this regard so that we can say that this is the particular cause for the end of this civilization? The second question is, there are some studies regarding the DNA studies. They say that there's a relationship between Indus Valley, some skeleton DNA was matching with the Mesopotamian some DNAs.
Iranian and Central Asian, yeah.
There are
So-
two questions.
Okay, so the first, so I will answer the DNA question right now. So yes, there were some studies conducted, especially on material found, skeletons found in Rakhigarhi in India. But you know, you have to keep in mind that actually all these analyses, DNA analyses, have been conducted on very, very limited samples, I mean very few samples. So I would not conclude from these results for the whole civilization and all the different regions and of this civilization that the situation is the same, not at all. You're right to say that there are some connections with Central Asian people, with people from Iran, but who knows for the other regions. So truly we have to carry out more DNA analysis to have a more...
And I would like to add a little in this that we are now celebrating a centenary celebration of Mohenjo-Daro. So maybe in coming days with the conferences further, we are able to link different sites with the Mohenjo-Daro and further excavations. So maybe these questions may be answered later.
Yeah, sure. I hope that we could exchange during this different events the department is organizing for celebrating this centenary of Mohenjo-Daro excavations. To answer your your first questions, it was regarding the end of the Indus civilization. For many, many years, there were different hypotheses, and there are recent studies on climate, on environmental studies. So, you know, many people have been working on the hypothesis of an abrupt climate change around 2000 BC. So for sure there are some climate change during this period, but there are also, I think, a combination of several factors like economical factors. You know that the Indus civilization is very, the territory is very big, connecting different provinces, having a strong commercial interactions with all these provinces. And I think at some stages, all this system may collapse due to different factors. It's not possible for thousands and thousands of years to maintain such close interactions between the different provinces. So, and during, at the end of the Indus civilization, there is also this weight system, this seal production totally disappeared. So something happened. It's not just a question of climatic change, but also a different way of living, maybe. But yes, there are some recent studies. I think this is a combination of several factors, economic, environmental, and not a big disaster or a big flood like in this Mohenjo-Daro movie. You can see that a big flood coming, and no, it's not like this for sure.
Yeah, history is totally different.
No, we did not find any Mesopotamian objects, and you know that in general there are very few Mesopotamian, Iranian, or Central Asian material in the Indus civilization, which is quite interesting because the Indus civilization was exporting a lot of material, and there are some Mesopotamian texts talking about Meluha, which is connected with the Indus civilization, and this text mentioned the imports of not only beads, but also wood and other kind of products that you cannot find actually in archaeological context. Maybe clothes. I'm sure that clothes were exported from the Indus Valley. So, but in return, we do not have any evidences or very few of Mesopotamian material. This is very interesting.
So we are just moving at the end of our session.
Yeah.
In the last, I would like to ask you, are you planning any publication on the Mohenjo-Daro excavation? Because people and scholars want to know about and read about more about your excavation and the results.
Yes, so we have already published a few scientific, very specialized articles, but we have also prepared a report, quite a big report that we have submitted to the culture department. The idea would be to publish this report this year as a monograph with the support of the local people. So for sure we will publish this report, this monograph this year, and we will also participate to the volume prepared by your department for celebrating the Mohenjo-Daro centenary excavations.
Yes,
so yes. And we are also contributing locally. We are preparing some flyers, you know, for the public, for the visitors who will come in the site for the schools, etc. Flyers in English, Urdu, and Sindhi. So with the support of Sakran Committee Town, we'll do this year, and we have also prepared some posters, etc.
So it's wonderful to have you like a woman, a mother, a director. I'm really inspired. So
thank you.
Yes, I just know about that you are mother a few weeks ago. But before that, I know her. She's a director. She's coming and all the wife and everything. But 2 weeks ago, when I knew that she's a mother, I was surprised and I was really inspired that she's well organized. Everything, all her responsibilities on field, on his French embassy, everything, and at home as well. So.
But you know, it's not a secret that women are multitask people. We can do many things in the same time. So. Yes, I hope. I mean, this last 2 years with the COVID, it was not possible to come. But now she's 3, and I think I will bring her next year in Pakistan.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
You know, you just mentioned that you didn't have any material from Mesopotamia.
Yeah.
However, a lot of textile material from the Indus cotton, and from South Asia, from the Indus Valley civilization, was found in Tutankhamun's tomb as part of his wrappings.
Yes, maybe.
You know, part of the wrappings and part of his funeral attire were from South Asia.
Yeah,
and it was being imported from the Indus and the Indus Valley civilization to Egypt.
I was talking about Mesopotamian evidence in the Indus. There is no evidence of Mesopotamia, or very few.
Are we looking from the Indus to Egyptian and Mesopotamia?
How are we looking for?
Are we looking for evidence from the Indus to in Egypt and Mesopotamia?
Any relation from Indus to the Mesopotamia?
Are we reversing the process is basically what I'm asking, since we do have evidence of Indus cotton being there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's difficult because, you know, and especially you talk about clothes and wrapping and this, but actually this is not preserved in the archaeological context here in Pakistan.
No, but it is in Egypt.
Yeah, sure, but
and in Mesopotamia.
Who knows? I think that there are some studies, I mean, for later periods of time. I know that my colleagues from the National Museum of Natural History, they are working on the connection of cotton between, maybe you could answer this question, connection between cotton from the Indian subcontinent, found in Egypt or in the Gulf.
We have last few minutes.
Yes, just very quickly, because it's a little bit out of the subject. So we have a big project in our laboratory on cotton, and so cotton was cultivated first in the Indian subcontinent, that's the oldest, but then it was introduced to the Arabian Peninsula, so it's cultivated in oasis context in Arabia in the Roman period, Nabatean period, and then you find it in Egypt too, cotton cultivation and introduction. But I think Tutankhamun's wrapping was made of linen. The Egyptians were real professionals in linen weaving, and they cultivated a lot of linen. And it's much later than the Indus Valley, so it's not at all the same period.
Excuse me, if you allow me, we may continue this discussion later, please, because
yes, we will,
the time
because it's
is
a
up.
big subject and very interesting. The question is really important.
Look,
I think you have been
yes, actually the Indus Valley civilization is a very romantic story and it's not over, so we will continue it later. Thank you so much for all of you who joined us today, and thank you so much. So have a nice day. Thank you.